so much thinner in all those pictures. Welcome back to America. Thanks for joining us. Hi. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, Texas. One of the biggest states in America. The biggest state. Sorry.
No.
No, it's not the biggest state. I take that back.
Alaska is the biggest state.
Okay, you ask her and find out.
Okay.
I'll ask her. We got Trevor Keveloh. He's going to be on the show. Keveloh. Trevor Keveloh. And we also have James Mack, both out from Texas. They spent a lot of time in Texas. Right now, Trevor's in Austin, and James is out in New York, and he's spent a lot of time out in Dallas. So we're getting first-hand perspective of comedy out there. Looking forward to that. And Millie, our cracked-out researcher, crack researcher,
yes.
Has gotten us a lot of down low on what's going on in Texas.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes. Well, like I said Texas is the second largest state after Alaska. It is known to be the friendliest state in the United States.
Texas is the friendliest state?
Yes, very friendly.
You're getting me to talk like you.
Texas means friends. Yeah, yes.
Texas means friends.
Yes. You know, unless you're at a barbecue and you look at the platter and there's only one hamburger with cheese left, then the people aren't that friendly.
Fair enough. Fair enough, Millie.
Right?
Fair enough, Millie.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Speaking about barbecues, Texas is a very gassy state.
I hear that.
Yes. Barbecue beans, petroleum oil. We're number 3 after Russia and Saudi Arabia in the oil, and number 1 in helium. Number 1. That's right, people.
I had no idea.
Well, that's not a good fake helium. And bats. Urban bat colonies in Austin, Texas.
That's a good enough reason to not go.
That's a lot of gases.
Yeah. You think the bats have gas? Is that what you learned in your research?
When they take a shite, there's gases there.
All right, fair enough.
And it's good for fertilization.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So now, let's not forget about the sauerkraut and the bratwurst, because in Texas, there is a lot of German culture.
Yep.
Alive and doing well in Texas since 1840s. That's when they migrated, some from Hamburg, Germany. Texans are claiming, though, that the birthplace of hamburgers is Texas. It's not.
No, there's no way. It's Germany.
It's not.
It's Germany.
It's Germany.
Germany.
It's like us in New York saying, like, because we have 50,000 pizzerias, that pizza is from New York. It's not. It's from Italy.
It's from Italy. But our pizza in New York is probably better. But we'll go there. That's another show.
Maybe.
People are going to be calling in on that one.
Yeah.
What else you
so
got
now
for us?
in Texas, there seems to always be a lot of tractor trailers with 40,000 avocados falling all over the highways, falling into rivers. So the last time it did fall into the river, these 40,000 avocados, well, they make guacamole. And then the driver, he was uninjured. He chipped in the chips.
No, we have no avocados. We have no avocados. You know, like the banana song?
Y'all, you all had no cattle there, boy. Houston, we have a problem, and it's called traffic.
Oh, man.
It looks like a parking lot.
It gives me anxiety just looking at that.
Nobody wants to take public transportation. They want to stay. They feel it goes against their nature. These people, they need to be engulfed in gases.
You want to burn them?
No, just that they like the way the gases smell.
We're going to get so many calls tonight.
It's very gassy.
We do not advocate burning down Texas here at Welcome Back to America and Strong Island Television. What else you got in there?
This is beautiful, you know. In Texas, back in the 1930s, I believe it was Ladybird who started throwing wildflower seeds, like 30,000 all around the highways.
I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt.
And it was so beautiful that people would get out of their car and take a look at the pretty flowers. Now, just like in New York, because they did that here too. But you know, it's tough to grow in the cement, and it's tough to see inside the potholes. But the flowers are there. But if you get out of your car to take a picture, you're gonna die.
I lost you at flour. What else?
Oh boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Woo,
Texas.
doggy.
Texas.
Woo, doggy. Same thing. Okay, yeah.
Texas has a whorehouse in it.
Oh, some of the funniest comedians come out of Texas. Yes, we have Steve Martin.
Wow.
Jamie Foxx.
Wow.
Carol Burnett.
Wow.
Yes, Sam Kinison, even though he's not really from there, but he's did a lot of Dallas stuff. But some of the Bushes.
Some of the Bushes,
Not
yes.
all the Bushes are
Not
funny.
all the Bushes.
Just some of them.
They
Yes.
moved to Maine.
Yes.
So they were in Kennebunkport. Yeah.
You know, what's very big out in Texas are the rodeo clowns out
Love
in the
'em.
comedy.
Love
There's
myself
a
a
big
clown.
draw at the rodeo.
We actually have a clown on next week. Week after next.
Yeah, they're fun to watch, you know. Like when a family member falls or trips or goes down the stairs the wrong way, you laugh,
Right.
but then you worry.
Because other people's pain is funny. You know, the whole Schadenfreude thing.
The
yeah.
radio clowns, what they do, next picture, Bobby, is that they put their laugh on the line. Okay, the person falls off of the 3,000-pound bull, and then they throw themselves and they start heckling the bull so they can, you know, get the other person to get away. You know, this kind of comedy makes it okay to do open mic night.
Yeah.
Makes it more attractive.
Sounds like a marriage to me. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. Texas is famous for bigger and better hair,
Always.
barbecue,
Yep.
live
everything.
music,
Bigger cars, too. They love those big
bigger
old
cars.
trucks.
That's right, DB. That's right.
In Texas, you're issued a truck. If you live there, you're issued a truck to drive around.
That's right. That's right. But you know what's not big? Are the Little Women of Dallas. They got big attitudes, though. They're big attitudes. Yeah. I watched an episode. It was called the bar brawl. It was at a mini bar, and these little ghetto bitches. I did not say it. They said it. Could fight, y'all.
Yeah, you got to assume that's why the producers pulled the show together to get little people to fight on camera.
Yeah, And they were like, "Little mama gonna rock your ass." So check that out. You can go on YouTube, you know. And it's little people. It's not,
little mama.
You were gonna say that other word.
I have a little DB, but he never comes to the show.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah. So that's my
Thank you, Millie. That was a lot of work. Thank you,
Texas
Millie. I'm gonna
stuff.
give you Texas. Thank you for coming down and doing
y'all,
your
that's so good.
the
to be
voice
here.
that you did.
Yeah.
Very
I'm from Texas.
Yeah, no, I understand you're from Texas. She's from
Yes.
Texas. Millie's from Texas. She's been putting
El
on
Paso.
that. She's been putting on that Long Island accent for 2.5 seasons now.
Oh my goodness.
So stay tuned for the rest of the show. Watch these commercials. We got a lot coming at you. A couple of comedians, a little bit of In the Frick of the Night. Welcome back to America, DB Frick.
Come hell or high water, we're gonna be right back.
Millie Micheals. Hell or high water. She'll be back.
You'll be back too, DB.
Oh, I'm coming back too.
You're
but
fixing to come back.
Not
right?
if there's high water, though. I'm not coming back if there's high water. I'll come back if it's hell high, but not the high water.
Okay.
Hell high or high water?
All right.
Anyway.
You're gassing today, aren't you?
Hey, everybody. Stevie Frick here once again with Welcome Back to America. I've got another funny person. This guy's out from Texas, and he's been all over. He's been in Tucson. He's been over here in New York for the last few years. He'll talk a little bit more about that. He runs a comedy show, not a little comedy show, but he runs a lot of comedy shows online. He does a game show weekly. It's very funny, very simple, funny question-answer game. You know, comedians just say funny things. Ladies and gentlemen, James Mack. Thanks for coming down, man.
Hey, thanks, DB. Thanks for having me, man. So
I like that you're repping Texas with the Texas A&M behind you.
Oh, of course. I'm an alumni, so you gotta show it off as much as you can. So
Yeah, if you went to college, we did go. I went to college too. You got to try to let people know. I don't know if you've noticed, people who go to Harvard like to tell everyone that they went to Harvard a lot.
oh, oh yeah, usually for Texas A&M, like the alumni, they always ask like, "Where's your ring at?" And I'm like, "It's on a shelf, man." Like
Yeah,
I graduated a long time ago. I don't care anymore about that.
I
So
went for weed like 20 years ago. So
yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
my room went, probably. I don't know. I'm probably making that up. But one of the things that I like to get into pretty quickly on the show is what got you on stage? What got you into comedy? Did someone push you? Did you have some mentors?
Yeah, so as far as on stage, I actually started out in theater. So my dad made all of us kids. We all had to learn how to play an instrument. He didn't care. You got to pick what you played, but you had to learn how to play an instrument, and you had to do theater for at least a year.
Interesting. That's great.
So he was very much about like try everything and see what you like. Um,
It's not good of me. I don't like to stereotype, but you are someone who was in the army. You spent some time in the army, a couple of tours. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that. So to hear that you started in theater, that's interesting. To go, I don't think that's the usual course.
No. Well, and that's kind of a stereotype. Like, even though, like, I started out in the infantry, a lot of people are like, "Oh, only the dumb guys go to infantry." Well, my squad leader had a master's degree.
I would
I
imagine. Good.
Yeah, like I mean, and he really pushed everybody to get their education. I got my first two bachelors while I was still in the army. I have three and a
You have-
master's. Yeah.
What are those in? That's amazing.
So my bachelor's that I got from Texas A&M is political science, and then I have a bachelor's in criminal justice from Troy University, and then I have a bachelor's and my MBA in business operations from University of Texas at Tyler.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really impressive. I have a master's in English, which is useless. I mostly decided on that degree because the parking was best in the English department.
Ah,
Like less people would park over there, so I was like, oh, I'll major in English, and then. But I actually did my degree out in England. It was film in English, really.
okay. No, I had minors with each of mine, and I'm a big history person, so I had world history, then U.S. history, and then I did computer programming for my last one. So
Interesting road. And you've done all that, and you've been in the army. How long were you in the army for?
15 years and 5 months.
Dude, how old are you? I feel like you're 10 years younger than me. I was gonna guess that you're like 35. So
I'm
it doesn't even matter.
43.
Okay, so we're actually almost. I'm 44. I just turned 44, so
Yep.
we're practically the same age. So I guess that sort of makes sense. But you seem younger. That's amazing though. 15 years.
Yeah. I joined in February 17th, 1995 was when I enlisted. And I retired June 6, 2010. So,
Wow. Okay. So how many tours did you do?
well, of where? So I spent most of my time deployed. Out of my time in the military, I spent roughly about 10 years deployed somewhere. No, that doesn't necessarily mean Afghanistan, Iraq, because there's other deployments. Like I went into Kosovo in '99, went into Afghanistan, went into Iraq, and then did multiple tours of those. Went to Egypt, went to South America a couple times, Poland once. Poland was real interesting because that was all humanitarian. There was a horrible blizzard in I want to say it was the January of 2001, and we went over there. It was either December 2000 or January 2001 was when it was. But the snow fell so much that people's houses collapsed under the snow.
Wow. Yeah, I guess the infrastructure of a lot of those homes wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, so we were going over there and like setting up temporary like tent cities for them and making sure they got fed, stuff like that. So not everything was combat deployments. So
And how long ago did you leave?
The Army. I retired June 6, 2010.
Oh, so it's been 11 years. And
Almost, yeah.
you started doing comedy when?
6 years ago, coming up on 7. Yeah.
Wow. And you've also lived in Tucson, Arizona, and where are you from?
I grew up between East Texas and North Carolina. So
Okay, I have a lot of friends from North Carolina. When I lived in Los Angeles, everybody else was from North Carolina. Yeah, it's in Mount Olive, right by Mount. So
yeah.
yeah. Um,
I lived in New Bern for a little bit, and we lived in Fayetteville for a little bit because my dad was in the military also. So
okay, and beyond that, even like grandfather and beyond that.
well, my granddad came on my dad's side came over from Northern Ireland.
Okay.
So
I'm
as
the
far
first.
I know he fought in World War II, but we don't know a whole lot about anything else. So
I was the first in to not go into the military at all. If you look at the previous four generations, the first generation not to, and neither did either one of my brothers.
yeah.
I have a couple of little like sillier questions
Okay.
to ask you. Um, what if you could pick a superhero power? What would you do with it? What would you want to be?
Honestly, for the one that I would want would be the healing factor. Just because, like, I've already done a lot of stupid stuff in my life, and it'd be really nice if I didn't have to worry about going to the hospital later. So,
Like kind of like Wolverine, sort of like
yeah, Wolverine, Deadpool, whichever one. Yeah,
you're similar. I'd like to see a movie with both of them.
yeah. Well, if you go check out the new trailer for Wolverine, the next part of Logan, Deadpool is in the trailer. So
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
Um,
I just saw it the other day. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "No, I thought he was dead." What? I thought they were
right.
done.
Well, they'll
Um,
bring everyone back. They can bring absolutely anyone back. It's all a fake world. They're about to do multi universes, and we could talk about Marvel forever and all that stuff
yeah,
that they're doing.
yeah. I'll
What?
go get Deadpool kills the multiverse real quick if you want me to. So
I want to get back to Texas for a
yeah,
second
yeah,
because they're going through a lot. Um, have you been in? You have family down there? Uh,
yeah. So I got cousins in Fort Worth. I got cousins out in East Texas where I grew up, and then my little brother and his family live in right outside of San Antonio. So
and how? Um, I guess you probably haven't gotten feedback from all of them, but maybe you have an idea of how they feel about, and maybe they weren't even involved in it, but the storm that just happened and opening up the state today. The state just opened up today, 100%.
yeah, well, as far as the weather, I did check on everybody as much as I could. Obviously, I didn't want to talk very long. They need the battery power for it, but my brother, like, he's got 4 kids, and they lucked out that the guy that they rent their house from had an extra generator. So they were able to, for like 2 or 3 hours a day, just kick the generator on so that way they could, take fairly hot showers, recharge everything, and do that kind of stuff. My cousins in Fort Worth, they didn't have any power for 4 days, and they were pretty much to do a lot of stuff. They were like even to stay warm for the last couple nights. They were sleeping in their car. So
I would imagine that's the route that I would end up taking. And then you're always
yeah.
taking a chance like that too, depending on where you are.
Yeah, and then my cousins in East Texas, I mean, they could have cared less. They go camping all the time, and they live on like a huge ranch, so they're just like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna just grab the camping stuff and we'll go build a bonfire. So
Right. Some people can do that. I was an Eagle Scout. I can do that stuff too.
yeah,
Um, what is the comedy scene like down there? You were part of it for a little while, as I understand. Some of the clubs, maybe you have a little feedback on that.
Yeah, not really so much with the clubs. I was still completely in the open mic scene when I was in Texas, and also just to clarify, I mean, I know everybody's very much aware Texas is huge.
Oh, no doubt.
But when I started comedy, I was in the Dallas area, North Dallas to be specific. Pretty much all I did was bar shows and open mics because I wasn't really serious about comedy yet, and I know that's always sounds weird to people that aren't in comedy, but to me it was kind of like, oh, like I know the people that are doing this. Like I have a really good friend of mine who's the one who got me into it, and he's the one that kind of it started as a dare. And I know like I have a joke about it, but it's not a joke. Like it really did start as a dare.
What's that joke?
Oh, the joke is, that I finally told my dad that I was doing comedy, and after he laughed at my career choice and not my jokes, he was like, "Why would you want to do that?" I was like, "Well, Dad, it started on a dare." He's like, "You're a dumbass. You should have took truth." But it really did. So a buddy of mine that's still a comic down there, at the time I was teaching concealed carry firearms for the state of Texas. And he would never go shooting with me and some of my buddies, but he would hang around us. He just wouldn't shoot.
Okay.
And it's not like he was afraid. He just was like, it doesn't do anything for him. And, but he would do comedy, and if you've never got to look behind the curtain, it does look really easy. So you're like, oh, you just get up there and you say stuff like it's fine.
Do you have a collection of guns? Are you a gun enthusiast?
Yes.
Right.
So,
I love guns. I don't have any guns myself. I am more apt in the last year to consider getting one, and I have thought of it more realistically more recently, and may get something in the next few months or year. We'll see. But
if you decide to do that, let me know. And if you want some advice on some of them, or if you anything like that, let me know. I still do that here in New Jersey. I teach people how to shoot and stuff like that. So.
Oh wow, is that what you do for a living?
No, I do that strictly just for the educational part. No, I'm I'm a director of project management for a company. So
okay, I've done some of that too.
Yeah,
a lot of my work has been production manager stuff, sort of on the party level, setting up events.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Well, that's the one thing I like about doing that, is because I get to do a little bit of everything, and it's just project management. So we get to play in all kind of different pools. So, but yeah, no. Going back to it, yeah, my buddy was. I had been to a couple shows with him, and I remember the where the final thing came out was he had finished the show. He didn't do well, and I'd been drinking a little bit. And I was like, dude, I don't understand. Like, that shit's not that hard. Like, why are you having such a hard time? And mind you, he'd been doing comedy at that point about 5 years and had done some road gigs and stuff. And he was just like, you know what? If you think it's so easy, he goes, I'll give you 2 weeks. We'll go to an open mic. You do 3 jokes, because there was an open mic at the time. It was the House of Blues in Dallas. And you got 3 minutes. That's all you got.
Yeah, I've been to a few shows like that, of course.
And but there was a little bit of a crowd that was in there. He goes, if you can get one joke to really land, it can't be a dad joke, can't be something you stole. You have to like do a legit joke. And I was like, okay. So I went for the next 2 weeks. I wrote some stuff, because that's the other thing is, like, not only did I do theater, I'm a published poet. And I was a U.S. soccer referee instructor. So speaking in front of people doesn't bother me at all.
I don't get that impression at all. That's an issue in any way, shape, or form.
And yeah, so like we went to the open mic, and all 3 of my jokes landed. And I remember still standing up there like at the end, because I think I only did like 2 minutes. Because it was 3 really short, hacky jokes that I would never tell again, and and I remember standing there because people were laughing. I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. And then like the host came up and was like, dude, give me the mic, and I was like, oh, here you go.
Well, you got lost in it. Yeah, I can totally get that. Having an audience and really having the attention of a large audience is very, very exciting.
No, it is. Yeah, I think there were maybe about, I mean, there was like 15 comics there that night and then maybe 10 real people or non-comics. So, but it was enough to be like, oh, wow, like this is awesome. Like I want to do this. But I started out for like the first 2 years, I really didn't write. I was just riffing or I would do roast. That was it. So
roasts can be a lot of fun. I've written for a few. In fact, I used to write roasts for people who were retiring at Marvel. So a lot of the cartoonists and writers at Marvel, in their old age, whoever in their 60s and 70s was retiring, I would write, roast jokes. That was a lot of fun. I always liked that. You're also doing a show called Winging It, which is online. It's all over the place. Tune in, Spotify. Talk about the show a little bit and how it came about and how people can check it out.
Yeah. So Winging It, so my production company overall is called Headspace and Timing Comedy. And Headspace and Timing actually started out with what Winging It is now. So it started out as a game show where you take comics and they don't know the premises, and you've been on the show a couple times, so you know exactly. So like you just give them premises, real quick premises. Nothing they have to do like in-depth jokes about. Just stuff like, I think this last episode we put out, one of them was things not to say when you're running for Prime Minister of England.
That's great. There's a lot of opportunities. A lot of opportunities for funny.
Yeah, and Aiden, who's Irish, came up with the best one. He was like, fuck the Queen. Which I thought, like, that's hilarious. So
simple, very simple, to the point. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like roast jokes. Like, they need to be short. Just get to the point and move on.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's great. I can see it really catching on.
Yeah. And right now we're on iHeartRadio. We're on Pandora. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, and, of course, YouTube. We put it up. And then hopefully now that things are starting to open up, we want to try and do at least one show live a month.
Nice.
Matter of fact, I just got about an hour ago, I got off the phone with Dr. D, who's our host, to start discussing, hey, how are we going to do this? So where can we do this? Because, with the room and like making sure that we have enough room so that way the comics aren't taking away too much from how many crowd we can have and stuff like that.
There's a lot of good rooms in the city all over the place. Some you can actually find for free. I did a reading of a sitcom, one of my sitcoms, at a place in Midtown, and it was a bar, and it was in the back, and there were about 30 seats, and it was perfect. And I don't know if that would be the kind of room you need. I forgot the name of it right now, but I'll look it up and get back to you on it. But it was a perfect place in Midtown. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few places, because we also have to think about, like, because of where all the different comics are, trying to make sure that they can, it's a place that they can get to as well.
I think via satellite should happen more too. Get comics like doing their set on the TV to the live crowd, and then going into your live show, and then sketches, and then whatever. I mean, I like variety. Sometimes there can be shows where there's like 15 comedians, and it's hard for an audience to sit through that. I know it's hard for me, but it's hard for an audience too.
It's hard as the host of one of those shows. Like, have you ever been the host of a showcase?
Hundreds. I think I would say probably hundreds of showcases that were like grueling to get through. Yeah.
Yeah, like about halfway through, especially if it's a lot of newer comics, you're over there like, is there anything to slice my wrist with at this point?
And then the audience laughs at that.
Yeah.
In the last couple of minutes that we have, and it's been a great chat, you've been a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming down. Is there any place that you'd like to tell the audience to go to check you out, see where you are, see what you're up to?
Yeah, I put everything on either my Facebook or my Instagram. They both have the same name as @JamesMac Comedy. That's JamesMac Comedy. You can also now find me on TikTok. I've been putting out some of the newer jokes out there. on TikTok where I can maybe put in a little bit of not prop comedy, but maybe a couple of videos or pictures to.
I saw you use your dog for a little comedy, a little moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The one about him barking at 2:00 in the morning. And I'm like, oh God, do I grab my Bible or do I grab my gun? So
that's where I suggested you make a Bible gun. It's got to exist. I'm surprised the NRA hasn't marketed that yet.
Well, you had the cross that Constantine had. That was right. A gun.
That's you're right. Very similar. Thanks for coming down, James. You were a great conversation, as I said. And I hope we talk again soon. And
I'm sure we will, man.
We're going to maybe go down to Tucson, Arizona because of you in the next couple of weeks. So I'll talk to you about that after this. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We've got some commercials so that we can make this show happen. I'm DB Frick. Welcome back to America. That's James Mack. And we are out of here.
Yay.
Hey, everybody. Once again, welcome back to America. I'm DB Frick. I have with me someone out of Austin who's just added himself in the last few months to the comedy scene out there via Chicago and LA. He's really great. We just met. Very funny. I really like this guy. He started a comedy group called Dojo Comedy out of LA. The Dojo. It's right behind him, as you can see. Ladies and gentlemen, Trevor Keveloh.
Yes,
I got it
that's
right.
Me.
Thanks for coming down here today, man.
No
really great to meet you. It's great to talk to someone down in Texas right now. Texas is huge news. It's every day. If you watch the mainstream news or read any kind of paper, it's everywhere. So it's a great opportunity to talk to you right now. So thank you.
Of course.
I want to get right into it and ask you what I ask all my guests first. And that is, what first got you on stage, or what was it that first got you into comedy, if that was your first time on stage?
First time I ever saw anything comedy related was, I believe I was 8 or 9, and I saw my brothers were, it was a Saturday afternoon. My parents were out doing whatever. And I've got 4 older brothers, and a couple of them were in the room watching, laughing something, watching a movie. And this is a long time ago. I'll be 43 in a few weeks. So this is like VHS.
Oh, close. I'm 44. We're practically.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I walk in the room and I was watching Dynamite Chicken with them, with Richard Pryor. And that's not exactly something that an 8 or 9-year-old should watch, but with older brothers, and we were kind of like feral kids to a certain degree. You know, I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I didn't know what the hell I was watching. And about a year later, I was at a movie theater, and I was watching a movie with my brother, and I didn't like it. I was like getting bored. So I walked out to go pee, when you could go pee by yourself when you're that age. I walk out and I go to the next theater, and I just look up on the marquee inside the theater, and it just says Raw. And I'm like, Raw? I'm like, that's weird. So I walk in there, and I look on screen, and I see this like fucking really cool, funny black guy in this cool outfit telling jokes in a movie theater. So they're like actually showing the comedy special in a movie theater. So I walk in and I'm watching this. I'm sitting there like, whoa. And this is there was the coolest thing in the world. I'll never forget it. There was like 2 tiers of laughter. because there's people laughing at the special where it was filmed, and then people laughing in the movie theater. So I was like, I just stood there and I was like, I want to do that. That looks like fun. People are happy. People are laughing. They're having a good time. And then it's like, that's when I learned about the N-word, because it was used a bit between Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. I didn't know what it meant until I was older. And I was like, I thought it was a cool word, but I knew it was a swear word too. So I didn't say it, and then I learned about what it was. I was like, oh, okay. Now I know what this is. So that was my introduction. And then the first time I ever got on stage, I was 22. I was living in Phoenix at the time, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tempe, whatever. And I went to an open mic and just tried to do something. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was mentored a little bit early on by Bob Odenkirk, who most people know now as Better Call Saul, but back then he was like the guy from Mr. Show and SNL.
He wrote for Conan. He's done a lot. He's been around.
Brilliant. And what I love about him is he does it all: actor, writer, producer. Like he owns I believe he owns his own talent agency, or his wife does or something. So I love the fact that he's integrated in the scene completely. And he kind of mentored me for a while in comedy and in acting and getting in the door, and at a very young age. But, I dabbled with stand up on and off for years, went back and forth to LA. And then I ended up just kind of stopping. It was burning me out emotionally, trying to go to LA and make it, and then just flopping within months. But no one taught me really that it's it takes years, of just committing yourself. And I moved back to Chicagoland, and I worked at a bar, and I was opening up for bands, doing 10-minute sets before a band would go on stage, which was really tough because nobody wants to see some 27-year-old that's telling fucking really bad dick jokes, before a band that there's and in front of 200 people.
They always want the band. They always want the band over the comedian.
And I'm still pretty new. I'm, like I said, 27, 28 years old. I'm still trying to find my voice, which took me a long time. And I'm up there, like I said, in front of a huge crowd, and a lot of my peers and a lot of my staff telling really, fucked up jokes, because that's what people like me do. First thing you got to do is be offensive and be a shock comic. And that's what I did, is try to find the weirdest shit to say, because I didn't have a voice yet. And I did that for a long time. Then I got into events, live events, producing and planning live events, hosting live events at the bar. And then as well as a company that I worked for years, I did a lot of stuff with live events with the UFC and the mixed martial arts world. So I was doing this kind of hosting and wrangling and doing all these things at one time. And it became fun and I loved it, but everything in the back of my head was comedy, perform, produce. It's just in the back of my head every day. And then over 6 years ago, I made the plunge and I moved to LA, and it worked out, until COVID.
Right. And now you're in the Austin comedy scene.
Yes.
You put yourself out there around where the Creek and the Cave, who was in New York City for a long time,
Yep.
they've just moved themselves out there, and you referred to yourself as being part of a movement that's out there. What did you say before?
I call it the Rogan effect. People don't want to say it because they don't want to, it's a subject people kind of want to dance around, oh no, it's because Texas is open and Texas is this and Texas is that. I'm like, yeah, well, California's opening and New York's opening. I'm like, everywhere's going to reopen. It's going to happen. Texas just was way ahead of the curve. And then he moved here, Elon Musk. But the other thing is, aside from, we'll just say Rogan and Elon, tech companies have been coming into Austin for years. So it's really just now he's bringing the comedy and somewhat of an comedy scene, not entertainment, because he's strictly a comic, but he's bringing that element into Austin, not just tech companies and businesses, because it's a very business friendly state. And, the restrictions and startups are a lot easier for that to happen here versus California.
Right, because there's a tax difference.
Yeah, there's no state income tax here. There's, as far as regulations, it's totally different than California. So
it's why just recently there probably would have been a faster response to the recent weather out there. were it attached in different ways, tax wise, to the federal government, it would have been a different situation. It's
totally different.
So bad. Were you down there? Were you involved in that at all?
Oh yeah.
Any of that?
Yeah, and born and raised in Chicagoland, like for me, it was nothing.
Right.
But this state, especially this city, because the city isn't that big, it's blowing up, but the infrastructure of the city itself it doesn't have the capacity to handle the amount of people just like coming, moving here by the droves, even permanently or somewhat permanently. And the town was basically shut down. Like almost nothing was open. I went to a gas station to get something, and I'm talking everything was empty. People treated it like the apocalypse because I think people are being like almost like conditioned to think that way. Anytime something scary happens, it was like the beginning of COVID. Everyone ran out and bought toilet paper out of all things. I'm like, toilet paper? Like really? Like toilet paper?
Yeah, I actually bought stock in a mask making company at the time, and they make hazmat suits. So I bought like a little bit because I knew it was about. Once I saw that coming, I knew it was about to blow up. In fact, today, March 11th, is the last time I went into the city, into Manhattan, to see a show.
Really?
I saw the show the last night, and I wrote a review about it. But it was the last night than anything. I remember the cast was so miserable on stage as they were bowing, and in the audience, what's going on? Why is everyone so unhappy? And then we went outside and found out theaters canceled. Everyone's got to go home, and you might go home forever. But yeah, it was scary. It was a scary moment. I was cleaning my groceries as I was bringing them in the house too. At first, at first, and I was like, "This is crazy." But I want to ask a little less involved questions.
Sure.
If you were on the run and you had a bag of money and you were on the run from the cops, where are you going to hide and where are you going to hide the money?
Bury it.
But where?
It's Texas. It's a big state, man.
Fair enough.
If this happens and I tell you, the cops look at this podcast and they're like, now we know where the fucker buried it.
That's actually why I do this question. I try to lead to the point where I'm just trying to find out where to go if you get in trouble and find it. I still have a fantasy about finding Dutch Schultz's treasure. He had like diamonds and cash and like bonds in his name. I fantasize about finding it one day. If you had a superhero power, what would it be?
Oh man, to be able to see titties anytime I want.
You can though. We do. We can see them right now. I can
live titties that aren't at a strip club or a nude beach where it's all old people. It'd be a great power. I just walk around, I can just see a nice pair of titties, like, oh, sweet, cool. I feel better. Dopamine.
And in the news recently, rabbit titties was in the news because the new Space Jam movie has unsexed the female rabbit character by taking her breasts away and taking her hips away. So
why?
I don't know. That's what they did because they're trying. It's a PC thing. It's it's totally the same reason that they just canceled Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah, and Mr. Potato Head
and Mr. Potato Head, and I keep on hearing about Miss Piggy. They're trying to cancel Miss Piggy, but they can't. She's a female, so it's easier to get away with it, I guess. But
this is true.
Where are some of the places you're doing comedy now? In the last few months, since you've gone down to Austin, since you've been there, have you been able to do any live shows? Are you doing Zoom shows? What's the scene like?
There's actually live comedy's been happening here since I moved here in October. So what happened is a lot of the clubs closed either temporarily or permanently, and a lot of bar shows have kind of like developed. That's kind of where things are right now, is a lot of bar shows. And then there's actually a nightclub, like an EDM nightclub called Vulcan. And I started doing a show there 2 Tuesdays ago. So I've got like every other Tuesday I'm doing shows there. That's also where like big names are coming into town, big name headliners, like Josh Wolf was just there. Lacey was just there. Matt Rife is going to be there in a couple weeks. Death Squad, which is Red Band, and Tony does stuff with Red, Hinchcliffe. Red Band show, Death Squad. I think they're every Thursday. David Lucas does a show there, I believe, every Sunday. So, and they're doing, they can, they have the capacity, even with COVID restrictions, to put 250 people sat correctly in this venue, which is a good amount of people.
Yeah.
And that's with COVID restrictions. So they have the means to do that size wise. So they're able to book these big shows and big names. So that's where I'm doing stuff. I did a one-off back in December at this a bar show called the Green Jay. It's actually a venue. It's not a bar show. It's technically a music venue. I became cool with the owner. He reopened yesterday, and I'll start doing shows there again probably in April, like a weekly show at the Green Jay on Red River Street. And then I have a one-off show next week, the 18th, at the Lost Well, and Brian Holtzman's my headliner.
That's great.
Yeah,
we haven't had anything open like that since. I mean, we haven't had anything open. Like, we're supposed to open up on April 2nd, but none of the comedy clubs and even bars mostly closed because you can't just hang out at a bar here. You can't do that.
No, everything's open here, and now that Texas is actually open. And open 100%. And I believe the mask mandate got pulled. However, private businesses can still do what they want. They can do 50% capacity with the mask. It's up to them. It's a private business that can run it the way they want. So a lot of places in Austin are continuing to keep the rules that have been in place. And then it's going to be kind of pick and choose. Some bars or clubs or whatever you want to call it are going to go balls to the wall, no mask, or at least 100%. So
I would imagine it's going to lead to a lot of fist fights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people been cooped up for the past year. Yeah. It's like they get out and they forget how to interact. They forget that, at a bar you might get bumped into and your beer might spill and it's an accident because that person's stumbling around and you're stumbling around. So,
Yeah, I guess that it happens all the time and will continue to happen. You are the co-founder of the Dojo, which people can see right behind you. That's out of LA.
Yes.
Is there still a studio? Is there a brick and mortar that represents that out there? Is there a show that's going on? Or
no, we actually... Yes, well, kind of. So the Dojo of Comedy originated in Los Angeles. Sam Tripoli and I started it together. March 14th of last year is when we closed the doors, where the Dojo of Comedy was inside of a restaurant called Sycamore Tavern, which I used to run at Sunset La Brea, right in the heart of Hollywood. It shut down, and the owners, from what I understand, put the property up for sale. So the business, that location is done. But Sam connected with a guy named Mike, I think, Romanelli out of Morris Plains, New Jersey. So we have a Dojo East in New Jersey, which Morris Plains, I believe, is like an hour west of New York City. So we have a Dojo East going on in like Jersey, New York. So the name is still going. I've considered trying to open up something here, but with all the things happening, Sam and I talked and we're going to back off on it for a while. So I kind of just built my own off-brand, I call it, called Corrupted Comedy, corrupted with a K. So it's just my own little thing to kind of keep the brand going. And it's based around just, my type of show. So the Dojo Comedy became like the best workout room in LA for comics, everywhere from pro comics all the way down to newer comics. So I was really proud of what we did out there.
Network. That gives you the opportunity to network like your club.
Yeah.
Great.
Comic.
You're almost franchised. You have 5 places and then you have to franchise. That's or you have to you become a different sort of entity within. I think that's awesome that you run that thing. I'm going to check some of it out after this interview. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the people that will see this about yourself, where to go to see you, anything like that?
Well, I'm in Austin now for at least till October when I have, my lease is up. I like it here. It's cool. I perform quite a bit. I just realized I have, I think, three shows this weekend. I'm booked all weekend as just a comic, which is something was tough for me to transition, because you know, especially in LA, they want to put you in a hole or a position, and that's it. And I was looked at as a club owner or a producer. I wasn't looked at as a comic as much. And out here, I'm trying to like get away from that. But I love producing shows. I love the orchestration of it from cradle to grave. So I'm doing a lot of that. I don't do any Zoom shows or anything like that online. I've been on a ton of podcasts. I've been on, you know, Punch Drunk Sports. I've been on Tinfoil Hat. I've been on The Darkest Hour with Josh Denny. All Things Comedy I've been on. So I don't have my own podcast. People keep asking me, and I said,
I was
maybe
about to ask you. I was literally about to ask you.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like the only comic with no podcast. And everyone keeps asking me for the past, I started one called Dinner at the Dojo, and I had 3 guests, and it went great. And then I just stopped because it was just too much on top of everything else I was doing. So I scrapped it. But those 3 podcasts are out there, so you can see.
Not having a podcast is the new having a podcast.
Yeah. I'm like a punk rock comic, not even knowing, because I just don't want to do it. I'm like, it's just another thing, you know. I'll just guest for the rest of my life. I'll be the anti-Rogan. Rogan doesn't guest on podcasts. He has guests. I'll just never have a podcast and just go on everybody's podcast.
Why not? That's great. Yeah. That's a great way to. I kind of like that idea. It makes it a little easier.
And it's
showing up and chatting.
And it's just I'm always trying to help people, honest to God. Like, I've helped produce, like, not even co-produce, but I've helped in a sense, like ghost produce like a dozen or plus shows out here so far, just helping people that have never done it or don't know how, or like are new to it or whatever, like in that stage. And I'm like, whatever you need, you just text me or call me. I'm like, I work for the government right now, AKA I'm unemployed. So I've got a lot of time. You know, I'm like, just reach out anytime.
That's great. It's been really great to have the opportunity to get to know you today, Trevor.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise.
You have a lot to say. I wish we could talk longer. Maybe we'll talk again when I do my next season. Each season is a different concept. Next season will probably just be a game show. I kind of just change the concept every season. So we'll see what happens, but I'd love to have you on again.
Cool,
so,
man.
Ladies and gentlemen, please check out these commercials that are coming up so we don't get canceled. You can also check out the show on Strong Island Television, Roku, and Amazon Fire. Welcome Back to America with DB Frick. We had Trevor Keveloh today. Thank you very much, man. We will check out all that stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing the dojo. Check you out soon.
Me llaman Dan Pablo y hace más de 20 años me enamoré de una colombiana. Viajé a su país y conocí un estilo de café muy distinto, muy especial. Ahora tostamos cafés excelentes, con alturas y microclimas diferentes, resultado en una taza muy compleja y muy rica, un sabor nuevo en el mundo. Fue un éxito. And I even got to keep the girl.
Thank you for once again checking out In the Frick of the Night. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about a story that happened way back in 2007. I used to do a lot of extra work for films and background work, and it was a lot of fun many years ago. One morning I was called in to be background for a small bit in Martin Scorsese's documentary Shine a Light about the Rolling Stones. I had been eating a lot of dried fruit the night before this, but I agreed anyway. The next morning, I had quite a bit of gas, But that didn't stop me. Nothing was going to keep me away from my day with Marty. So we got there at about 8 a.m. and everything was great. A couple hours later, the gas gets bad. But I can go to the bathroom. It's fantastic. And no one knew. It was great for the first 6 hours until Marty showed up. And then we all had to go backstage by the stairwell and stand back there. And I was to reveal Martin Scorsese. I would get out of the way as Mick Jagger's point of view and the camera was walking towards me, and I would reveal Martin. And through these 10 shots, there was a fog machine going and a man going around with fog, putting it everywhere. So there was fog all over the place. I tried so hard for 2 hours to hold these farts in, but eventually it just hurt too much. So I had to let them out as we were shooting these scenes with Martin Scorsese right there. And at one point, Marty turns to everybody and says, "My God, that fog machine smells terrible." The fog machine guy hears this and says, "It's not the fucking fog machine." And then I say, "Yeah, God knows what it is. That's terrible. That's a really terrible smell." And then we shot 2 more scenes. And Martin Scorsese said to me, after we shot the last scene, he said, "Great job, kid," and looked me in the eye and pointed. And I was so happy, because working with Martin Scorsese is like working with the Jesus of film. And Martin Scorsese smelled my farts. Thanks for checking out Welcome Back to America. Join us next week when we talk about another event that was awkward and horrible and a failure. Hey there, everybody. Thanks for checking out Welcome Back to America this week. Texas was great, wasn't it? Where's Millie? Millie? Oh, very funny, Millie. Very funny.
I'm not being funny. I can't
Thanks.
take it.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
blow up. I
Right,
can't.
whatever. All right. Trevor Keveloh, very funny. We also had James Mack out of Dallas, Trevor from Austin, of course, Texas. We learned a lot from Millie. Thank you so much for teaching us so much. We learned a lot about my stories from my past, about failures. Next week, we're going to Portland and Seattle. We got Marty Gordon and Jim Hitt. We're talking to two guys out who work the scene out there, and looking forward to that. And hopefully there'll be no gas.
Yeah.
Right.
Hold them. I hope.
All right.
Okay. All right, I gotta go.
That's fine. I'm just going to sit in it.